Welcome back to another episode of Be in Demand. And today we are going to be talking about dancing with your demons. I am bringing on a good friend of mine, Gail Kraft, and we talk about these demons. Instead of stuffing them down, ignoring them, or making them your friends, we're talking about dancing, getting curious with them. You are going to love this episode. So grab pen, paper, and let's get to it. You're listening to Be in Demand, the podcast for honest advice, inspiring stories, and ideas for growing your business by leveraging the expert that you are. I'm your host, Laurie-Ann, business mentor, and I'm also a reformed painfully shy girl, red wine lover, and exercise enthusiast. Join me as I share how being positioned as the expert in your industry, even if it's a busy one, will help you stand out and be the one in demand to hire and work with. Well, welcome back, my listeners. And this is Gail Kraft. And we have been chatting beforehand. And I was just like, we're just going to hit record and we're just kind of like going with the flow. And we've got a couple of topics that we are going to talk about. Gail, just kind of say hi and let's just dive right into this talk about dancing with our demons.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, Laurie-Ann. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. We're going to have such a good time.
So dancing with our demons. I'm just going to let you explain that first.
Okay. So I'll explain why we're talking about dancing with your demons. And that's, I have to be honest and true with all of you. I was in a group call and there was a coach there and she talked about how she calls what she does dancing with her demons. And I like that term. So I wrote it down. And then she talked about literally pushing her emotions down and getting away from, getting in front of it, getting by, right. And I'm like, all right, so I'm on mute and I'm not going to say anything. So she finished her spiel and I had to say, well, when I think of dancing with my demons, I think of embracing the dark side. I think of facing what that feeling is that I'm experiencing. And I think of being curious about what is it that you're trying to tell me? Right. I don't try to get ahead of it. I don't try to push it down. I don't try to get it behind me. Because guess what? If you don't understand it, it's going to come back.
Well, exactly. I mean, you can't push something away. Like the direct, there's always, this is like Newton's laws, like there's always an exact reaction to every action. So if you push something away, it's going to come back. I mean, this is the whole thing about like traumas, that's like a very hot topic right now. I mean, there's trauma that's building up in people. So what do? Oh, yes, I'm going to stuff it down a little more so that I can, add some more shit to that and push that down a little more. Like eventually it just explodes. But what if you just had a dance with your demons, a dance with these emotions every day?
Oh, I love it. So first of all, you know that I love to dance, and I mean lead and follow type of dancing, and creative dance, not one that is structured, which means that both the lead and the partner have to pay attention. So this is, number one, what happens when you're dancing with somebody is that you're like, okay, big boy, what are you going to do? Right. And the lead is like, oh crap, what am I going to do? Right. Okay. So the music is on and the music is moving me. Okay. So I'm going to start to move her. And you're there saying, oh, this is what you want me to do. Okay, I'm coming. Right. But you hold back for a moment to observe. So when you're dancing with your demon, you want to hold back just for a moment and observe what is really going on here. Am I reacting to the moment? Or am I reacting to a memory? Probably a memory.
Probably a memory, which is sparked by the moment.
Right. And if I'm reacting to the memory, I'm going to let the moment go aside. Right. Because we'll talk about triggers in a second. Let the moment go aside. And I'm going to dance with you. I'm going to say, what is it that you're trying to say to me? What's the message going on here? What is it that I need to learn? What do I need to understand? Right? All of those questions, get curious, right? And ask, was it Einstein who said, give me an hour to solve a problem and I'll ask questions for 55 minutes.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Right? So for 55 minutes, ask, try that.
And I just want to say to the people who are listening to this, like, when you ask a question, because this is the same thing with speaking, like public speaking, which, like I'm all about, you can't just ask a question and then ask your next question and ask your next question. So ask a question and pause. I've talked about the power of pausing, before in presentations, but the same thing when you're dancing with your demons, and that you take that pause moment to before you enter into the dance, hey, yes, why are you here?
Right.
And pause, make the space to hear the answer.
And I love that. Make the space to hear the answer. So, I'm working on a training that Laurie-Ann is going to help me beta test.
I'm so excited for this.
Right.
Too.
I'm halfway through putting the meat on the bones. And one of the exercises in one of the modules is very similar to what we're talking about. What it says is, we're going to pick an example of the topic we're covering. And it's kind of like the 5 whys. So what is it that you're trying to tell me? Well, I'm trying to tell you that, this kind of situation is not acceptable. Okay. So tell me, why is the situation not acceptable? Well, it's not acceptable because it's not in alignment with your values. It's not in alignment with my values. Interesting. What values are we talking about? Right?
And we're just getting we're going deeper.
You're going underneath.
Yeah. But again, we made space for the answer.
Right.
Because otherwise, why are you here? What are you here to tell me? There's no golden pill or even better yet, there's no here's one sentence. We think about all the questions that you're just explaining that you answer, that you ask. And then at the very end, there's going to be this one sentence. If you asked all of these questions and then you only heard that last answer, you'd be confused.
You would be confused.
Because then it'd be what does that have to do with right now?
And yes, if you ask yourself for 55 minutes questions that way, if the last question you say, what problem did you pretend you were having? You won't remember the problem.
Say that again. What question?
What problem? I love quantum linguistics. What problem were you pretending to be having?
Wow.
Yes. Because you won't remember. You will have dissolved it. Right. And now you have the now situation. Remember, I said, put that aside because we're dealing with, what I call the folders from the past, right? Mm-hmm. So now you bring the present. So what really just happened in this present moment probably had nothing to do with what you just unpacked.
Right.
Right.
And this is the beauty of our subconscious mind, not knowing fact from fiction.
Yes.
Not knowing is this really happening right now, or is this a memory?
Oh, and let me tell you something.
Yes.
Nothing is real.
Nothing. Well, no kidding.
Because it's all a projection.
All my listeners.
It's all a projection.
It's all projection.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if you've heard of A Course in Miracles.
Yes.
Okay. So,
I've never done it though.
Oh, I've not been able to go through the whole year.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a lot of work, but I've gone through key elements of it. Right. And I've written my empowering questions, actually address some of them later on in that book. And one of my favorite exercises is to walk outside and look at everything and say, that's not real. That's not real. And that's not real. And let me explain why, guys.
Yeah, you might have to.
Right.
I mean,
it is, but it isn't.
Yeah,
right. It is, but
all my listeners, there's definitely a woo-woo side to me.
Right. So right. So everything is energy, and here's why. You all took science, and in science, you talked about atoms and how the thickness and the heaviness of an item is dependent on the density and the construction of the atoms. And I know when I took science, I'm like, sure, I understand water, and then it becomes steam, and then it becomes, clouds. Okay, so I understand that. I understand that the table, but I never understood that I am also energy until I started getting curious about who am I?
Yeah.
If I am energy, then what is energy? And if you check with quantum physics, energy is 99% space. So I'm just space.
Okay.
Right? With, some atoms, but there's more space than atoms. And so if I look at a tree, it's really just atoms with a lot of space there. Right? You start looking at things differently. When I did that exercise, yes, I went down a real woo-woo trip in those days. I was driving from San Diego to LA a couple of times a week, which is on a good day, 2.5 hours. On a bad day, 6, right? Okay. So, and as I was driving, it was a good day because I was moving, right? I saw the road moving underneath me, not me driving over the road. Because I was looking at things differently.
Yes.
So what's this got to do with dancing with your demons? Your demons are not real, right? They are a creation. What is real is this soul that's you, and this soul that's you wants to play and have fun.
Okay, but let's go back to the demons.
Yes.
Aren't real.
Right? That's hiding the soul, right?
Which is true. I mean, because when you think about like what I might consider to be a demon, you might be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, and then the third
I love chaos. What do you mean chaos? I create chaos.
I can't stand chaos, and then somebody else is like, I don't know has a different word for chaos. Or I don't know what you're talking about, but I just I hate being overwhelmed.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So our demons are also personal, and we interpret them differently, like person to person. So, okay. So our demons aren't real. So how the hell did they get here? Why?
Oh, I have a few different answers for that. They're here. So universal law of polarity. Let's go there because you started with universal laws. Let's go back. Yes. Universal law of polarity. And again, we all understand you can't have up without down. You can't have left without right because it's relative, right? Everything is relative, and law of polarity. So you can't have change if you're sitting comfortably, right? The greatest invention is as a result of change, because we have to. Because we have to. Think about that for a minute, right?
Yeah. Okay. Say it again.
We have to be uncomfortable. Ego wants to be comfortable. Spirit wants change. Spirit wants to grow. Spirit wants something new. Ego wants comfort. Ego wants to sit on the couch and flick the TV and bring me the chips. Okay. And your soul, your spirit wants to, no, let's go outside. It's snowing. Let's make angels. Right.
So I have a question for you. So I just want to pause for a sec. And I get the ego wants to be comfortable and stay exactly the way things are because I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but our soul being, as you said, wants change. Does it want to get us back to I want you to remember who you really are.
Yes.
So that's why there's the constant change.
Right.
Okay.
And who are we? So you've heard we are spirit, we are one, we are a piece of. If you take that to its logical conclusion, we are creators. We are God.
Yeah.
Right. And ego is saying, well, you came into this third dimensional world and there's lots of comfort here. I want to be a sloth. Let me just be a sloth. And it's okay to do that for a minute because you want to experience that. And then you want to experience anti-sloth.
Yeah, not forever.
Right. It's like you can wallow in self-pity. I allow my clients, when something traumatic happens, you can lick your wound for 30 seconds. Let's go. Okay, seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, you're done with the pity party. That's okay to feel sorry for yourself for a moment. But and then make a decision what to do about it. Not forever.
And everybody who's listening to this or watching this, I mean, we all know somebody who is still in that, if only this, like that victim mentality.
Oh, my ship will come in.
Yeah. If this hadn't happened to me, my life would be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I used to hang out with these women who used to play the pity party one-upmanship game.
The pity party one-upmanship game. I know. Like that's sort of a mouthful. And that's just not part of my life because I'm just not available for stuff like that anymore.
No.
But I know exactly what you mean.
I would sit there in the morning before going into work. It was during my corporate days in Boston. And I would be in shock because I would be observing because I wasn't into that game. Right. Okay, so this one is talking about how her husband just had a stroke. This one's husband, oh no, mine is in ICU. This one, but I broke my arm trying to lift my husband, right? And then the same thing about their work, same thing about their children, right? And I'm like, how miserable can this get? and once in a while it goes, any good news?
You brought up a memory for me. When I was in college and doing my internship, I did it at Leahy Clinic, just outside of Boston in Burlington. And the department that I was in, and so I would eat lunch with these ladies. And actually this even happened when I got a job there. And I would have lunch and they would just talk about like what they watched for TV the night before, what they made for dinner. And I remember just being so repelled, like I just like, this is like such nonsense. And I would,
is that all there is?
Yeah. But I mean, I knew enough and I wouldn't say awake then. But now it's just like, just hearing you talk about it, it's like, there was a reason that repelled me. I didn't really know it at the time, but I can tell you, I did not hang around with that. I was just like, I'm not even available to the woman who managed the department, was very overweight, and they would take the elevator down one flight and back up one flight. So I get the back up because maybe taking one flight of stairs was really hard on her knees, but like going down, like there's a little bit of gravity there. I mean, I would always be like, why are you like, let's just take the stairs.
Right.
Oh, but they were literally caretaking her. Oh, it's because, but again, like back to like, I'll go eat outside by myself.
And so they embrace their demons in a different way, right? Because they use the demons. So we all have archetypes and we all play roles. Yes. And the victim trilogy, you have a perpetrator, victim, and then the hero. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. That's the trilogy. Right. And all three have to be present for the game to be played. Mm-hmm. You can't play the game with just, you don't make the triangle with just two sides, right? And so they're successful in finding their perpetrator and fishing out their savior, their hero.
Okay.
Right. And I have clients that I will say, why do you want to be the hero today? Can you say no? Can you say, find someone else? Can you say, I'm not buying into that conversation today.
So these ladies in this department that I was working in, so like this was their norm. So you're saying like they just kind of
They nurture their demon. They don't dance with their demon.
And they were all nurturing each other's demons, because we are all a product of our environment also. Right. When you spend like 40 hours with these people, so you're just reinforcing,
right?
Like for hours when you think about it. Oh my goodness.
Right. And then how terrible is my life? And now I have to go home and face what I've just complained about for 8 hours.
Yes.
Who wants to go home to that?
Right.
Right.
Right. Okay. Oh,
my goodness. Yes. And so why do marriages fall apart? Because people spend the whole day brooding about something that happened at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then pounce on you at 6 o'clock at night.
And then they're talking about it all day, or thinking about it all day.
And growing it. Yeah. That's not dancing with your demon.
No.
So dancing with your demon would be, oh, this didn't sit right with me. So let me take the moment of this not sitting right with me and taking a look at how I'm feeling and ask, why am I feeling that way? Why is a huge question. Why is this happening? What evidence do you have? Now, evidence is an interesting thing because everything is made up.
Mm-hmm.
And you will create evidence to support what you think is your reality.
Right.
Right. So
yeah,
if you
100%.
right. Yeah.
I've always said, like since my 20s, that you can build a case in under a second.
So, we won't go into this story, but there was a time that I did seek a lawyer, and I went to this gentleman and I said, I'm not sure if I have a case. He goes, honey, everybody has a case. I'm like, okay, you're the one I want.
Okay. Yes. So we can build a case for everything.
Right. But if we instead put different shoes on, so I'm holding a conversation with Laurie-Ann and I'm looking at the conversation from my own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my stories, my beliefs, and whatever coming to the table. What if I took a moment and I went, okay, how is Laurie-Ann looking at this from her eyes? That's a different perspective, right? You listeners, how are the listeners from their eyes looking at this from all of their different perspectives? How many of you are out there? How many different perspectives? And what one person is going to pick up is different than what the other person is going to pick up on, right? It's all different. So that's how we create our reality, right? We create our belief systems and we create our demons, right? So demons aren't real. They are stories that have, you think of Aesop's fables, they have a purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So you can even say, okay, what's the fable? What's the moral of this story? I actually wrote that down on something that I was, might have even been the exercises that I was putting together for you. I don't know. I wrote down, what's the moral of the story? Right. What is the moral of your story?
You know what this is all reminding me of? I've, attended several of Tony Robbins' programs, and in his UPW, which I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this have probably attended, he asks people to look around the room and notice everything that's red. Then he tells them to close their eyes. And what's blue? Just what are you noticing? And so this kind of like ties into the case thing, like that we can find evidence for everything. If you don't believe that you're a good speaker, you're going to come up with like, oh, there was this time, like for myself, like I could be saying, well, I say a lot. I stutter at times, sometimes like, and I'm known for this, and I'll even tell audiences this, I make up my own words because I'm trying to say two different things at the same time. But again, like we can come up with all of this case, but I could then turn around and say, no, I'm a fantastic speaker. and here and here and here and here. I've got lots of cases.
Right. Right. And so if you want to change your story, you can write a list of evidence to prove your story wrong.
Right.
And you'll find the evidence because the law of polarity tells you both are there.
So it's almost like we have to tell our audience, like, be the shrewd lawyer
that says
that is
everyone has a case.
Yeah, that is going to court. And you're both sides of the courtroom.
Right.
And then put yourself in the position of be the judge.
Right.
Which one? Which side is going to win?
and it doesn't mean one is right and one is wrong.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
That's a really important point for everybody to like really hear that. It doesn't mean that either one is right or wrong.
Right.
But which story, which case, which pile of evidence is going to best serve you and move you forward?
What is going to align with your values and move you forward, right? Not hold you back. Now, you can choose to be held back. Those conversations we were talking about, those folks are very comfortable being uncomfortable and miserable. Now, you can be comfortable with being uncomfortable and growing, right? And again, that's play, that's joy, that's excitement. I mean, that's the roller coaster ride and your hands are up and you're screaming, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go. It's like your heart is palpitating and you made it.
Yeah.
Ooh, so much better than sitting with the cotton candy watching everyone else on the roller coaster.
So once we're dancing with a demon and we ask all these curious questions about why they're there, what happens the next time we dance with that demon?
Well, that demon probably won't come back. And if it does, it's not as strong, right? So sometimes, I know for me, I had repeating patterns and I would say, oh, I know you. I recognize you.
I recognize you.
I recognize you. So we're going to stop right now and we're going to have a conversation, right? We're going to stop and have a conversation. I'm not going to push you away and I'm not going to try and get past you because that doesn't resolve you. Right. So I want to, when I dance with my demon, that demon becomes me. Does that make sense?
Say it again, because for the people in the back.
For people in the back of the room, I'm going to say, when you dance with that demon, the demon becomes you.
Of you.
Right. So mine becomes me.
So explain that a little more.
Right. And here's why. Because I recognize the purpose of the demon and how that purpose is to serve not my ego, but my soul.
It's to serve your soul, not the ego.
Right. Right. So ego wants to protect us and it plays a very important role. I'm not saying don't let ego take control. Well, don't let ego take control. Let ego play its part.
Did ego create the demon?
Yes. Yes. And here's why. Because it's taken the folder from, when you were 7 years old and you were on that bicycle, you fell down and you scraped your knee and you had to go to the hospital and now your knee is out of place. So don't get on that motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
There's danger on that motorcycle. Well, yes, there's danger on the motorcycle, but not like there was on the bicycle, probably safer. Right. And whoa, so much more fun.
And so for everybody who's listening, who's probably like, we're just going to give, I'm going to give another example. That time that you were in the front of the class and you had to give your report that you wrote, because remember, writing is so different than the way that we speak. And so you're just reading from your paper, your book report, we'll call it. You flubbed up on something. You didn't practice it. there might have even been a word that like mom or dad like slipped in there and like, you're just like, I don't even know what this word is. And then maybe the class laughed at you. So there's that folder that we're now taking with us into our adult life. And like, we've got this burning desire to have a beautiful coaching business and get our message out there and help more people. But that demon that you don't even realize is there keeps holding you back. You're just like, I know I need to like do some video. I know I need to put myself out there. I know I need to get visible, get on a podcast, start a podcast, but you keep holding yourself back because you don't even realize this demon is right next to you saying, remember
they're going to laugh at you.
Yeah. Second grade. Yeah. People laugh at you. People are going to laugh at you again.
Right. And maybe they will. Maybe they won't.
Building the case, being that lawyer.
Right.
Both sides.
Right. Right. And have you spoken out a word ever since then?
Probably not.
Oh, but yes, we are having a conversation. You've had conversations.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
You have spoken multiple times and people didn't laugh at you. Right. So what's the difference? The difference is one, practice and formulated and structured, the others from your heart.
Right. And we are speaking all day long. But it's so funny how we make it a big deal. Like, I'm going to create this little video. I'm going to put it online. And so many people think like the entire world is going to see your 60-second clip. And the truth of the matter is, barely
6 people will see.
6 people, yeah. Like a tiny percent of the population in the world is actually going to see it. A small percentage of your followers is actually going to see it. That's just because of the way the algorithm works. But and that can actually work to your advantage. You're like, oh, I've got this 60 seconds. I'll just put this out. Like barely anyone's going to see it. Like that's a great perspective to have. Barely anyone's going to see it. So I'll put it on. Maybe I'll go make another one.
So let me share you my Facebook Live story. You've heard this one.
Okay.
So it's during our lockdown period, right? And I'm like, so what am I going to do? I hadn't yet decided to do a podcast. In fact, it wasn't even on my mind. It had been mentioned to me and I'm like, whatever. But I'm going to try this Facebook Live thing just to practice. And I will tell you, I look back at those first ones, they were horrible. The subject matter was not, but I had no lighting. I had no background. I literally got out of bed and went, oh, okay, you want me to talk about this? Okay, click. And I would talk about whatever right out of bed. I think I might have even had my pajamas on sometimes, right? Because I wanted to get it out. But I wanted to practice being comfortable speaking to the what I call the little white dot on the computer. And here's what I would get from my clients who were photographers. Gail, here's where you can buy lighting. Here's what I use. Click, right? Okay, I had a coach that I was working with. He goes, Gail, you need a background. Take a look at mine in my podcast. Click, right? Right. Hey, let me talk to you about ambient sound and mics. Here's where you can get one not too expensive. Click, right? So they liked my message. They wanted to support me in succeeding.
Yes. They were.
It wasn't criticism,
feedback, right?
Yes.
It wasn't. It was, here's how to make it better.
Yes. And that's how I took. I'm like, oh yeah. So I have all these lightings. And I do have a background, for when I don't have the virtual one up, right? I have a camera. No, I'm not using the computer camera. And I have, I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't. I have a mic set up with a buffer and all of that kind of stuff, right? And I got this like one after another. And the whole point was not for me to get equipment. The point was for me to be comfortable talking to the dot.
Yes. I love referring people to go watch my very first Facebook Live. And I talk about it all the time because as somebody who was used to speaking in front of large audiences,
right? Me
then
too.
all of a sudden you come online and I'm going to do a Facebook Live, it's different. Like the first time I recorded a podcast, I had to start over and over and over. And I was just like, and I wanted to give up, but I reminded myself, no, Laurie-Ann, your podcast recording muscle is really weak.
Right.
So I tell people, go watch my very first Facebook Live. You have to go to my business page. You have to scroll all the way down. You'll find it. But it is like this flat, like there's like no depth. I was
I'm
very stiff.
Right.
But
Because you're talking to plastic thing. There's no energy coming back to you.
Right. But it's a skill to speak to yourself or by yourself and to still have that energy. It's a skill.
Right.
And I didn't develop that skill until I was doing that.
But if you didn't dance with your daemon,
exactly, like
you wouldn't have gone there.
Right. I didn't even realize I was dancing with a demon, which was that I came out of my walk-in closet, was like, I'm not good at recording podcasts. And it was like, no, that muscle is weak. So that's a really good point for people to understand that your dance doesn't have to be long, because that dance about my podcast was probably 5 seconds. Went back into the closet and then recorded my very first podcast. Done. Easy.
Yep.
And they just get better.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. And that's, if you don't try. I have a friend who, her claim to fame, and I think she wrote a book about it, is she spent a year, 365 days, doing something every day that frightened her. And she wouldn't,
many things.
Right? She wouldn't pick and choose. She would wake up in the morning and say, well, what am I afraid of today? Oh, I'm afraid to. And she would go and do it. That woman has interviewed people on the red carpet because she's like, well, why would they? Well, I'm going to call my coach. Hey, what do I have to do? Oh, you've got a phone number for me? Okay. She called. Hey, can I on the red carpet? Yes. You'll let me? Great. And she says, I had a cell phone. Right. And then I thought, well, I'm not going to interview with a cell phone on the red carpet. Maybe I need a videographer. And so she talked to her coach, and her coach said, don't ask permission. You call them with your videographer's information and say, hey, be sure that he's on the lineup, and they'll be okay. And that's exactly what happened. And she interviewed, and she was like, what the hell am I doing? Right. But she's like, no, I want to be out there. I want to do this. I'm doing it live. And she did.
I think we could all learn a lot from that.
Right.
She just woke up to set, like, what am I afraid of today? How do I solve the problem? And she was just like, check, not the, I don't know how to do that, so I'll find something else for today.
No, she's like, who would help me? Who knows how
to?
Right.
Who can help me do this?
Right. That's so important. Don't think that we are a social being. Don't do it alone. Don't ever do it alone.
Don't do anything alone.
No, never. Right. I mean, we thrive on connection. That's why a lot of people had a hard time during our lockdown period, because they couldn't get the energy this way. Right. Where for me, I had already been coaching for a decade this way. Yes. And so I had learned how to throw my energy and how to receive yours without having to be within proximity. Right.
Yeah, you're right. And because I'd been doing like master classes, and like I have a small membership, In Demand, the membership, where like we would meet group, so at least twice a month. So you're right. Like I had that training so that when it came down to like, we couldn't go places, like I would suggest to my sister, like, well, let's connect with family and let's have like a cocktail hour. Let's plan a happy hour. And I think when we did one of those, it was because we were getting my nephew, my sister's son, was joining us as a surprise. That was a lot of fun. Right? But you're right. My dad and his wife, they were like we had like the tops of their heads. they just weren't used to it.
So, and we weren't all that great either, right? When we first started, I started just audio, and remember WebEx, right? I think that's what I started with.
WebEx, remember teleconferences? Right,
teleconferences. Yes, I still keep getting messages from that I haven't used you. I've canceled you. Why are you still sending me emails? Right, right. It's how I did work.
We've all had different iterations of our business. That's what I tell people. Like, and it's not, and it's just like the iterations are because of the market changes, technology changes. I mean, just
chaos happens.
Chaos happens. Just embrace where you are.
Right.
Dance with the demon.
Right. And enjoy it. Right. Remember the fear of the roller coaster.
Yes.
Right. It's and I want to use my word, delicious. It's just so delicious when you do that.
But I like the roller coaster analogy, because the very first time that you like, there's that anticipation as you're going up the hill, and
right.
you crest.
Like, what am I doing here? Am I out of my mind? Who the heck did I say yes to? Right.
But if you did that same roller coaster again, you already have evidence that, oh, I survived.
Yes.
I survived, so I can do it again.
Either that, or I survived and I don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
And that's okay. So find another ride to go on.
Right.
Right. It doesn't have to be the roller coaster. It might be the ride of your choice, but it is a ride. It is a ride. I think of the things that I have overcome, because sometimes I was too stupid to be afraid. I have to admit, I didn't know that, I could fail. I didn't know that. Right. And so ignorance is bliss. Right. And the thing is when you're ignorant to the potential of failing, guess what? Your mindset is set on success.
Yeah.
And you succeed. At least that's been my experience. The moment my mindset changed, I struggled.
And I think back to the very first time that I spoke, that I raised my hand, and I spoke from just a place of service. Like, it never occurred to me that I'm not a speaker. I can't do that. I was just like, okay, like, I'll just get it. Like, I'm like, I saw other people do this. So I'm just like, all right, like, I can do it. I think I was very ignorant to all of that also, and never even worried about what if somebody asked me a question that I can't answer, because I get that from clients all the time. What if somebody judges me? What if somebody makes fun of me? What if somebody says, like, you don't really know what you're talking about? Like, none of that stuff like even occurred to me.
Right.
I just came from a place of service. So you're right. It's that, what's the mindset that you're coming from?
Right.
Look at that again.
And that's part of the demon, and part of the dance with the demon is allowing it to show itself. Right. So it's like putting a light on the shadow.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I want to examine you. When you want to examine something, you get a magnifying glass, right? You might bring it into like a little laboratory, right? And you put over a Bunsen burner, right? What can you do to really break down and understand what's going on?
And then what happens is that we get down to like almost like the basic elements. And it's like, oh, that's scary.
That's the magic.
Yeah, that is the magic.
Yeah.
Gail, this has been absolutely wonderful. I know that so many people are going to get so much out of this episode, and I'm sure you're going to, my audience, that you're going to need to listen to this again. Put this on that saved list. But Gail, please share with my audience like where they can follow you, find you, and keep learning from you.
Sure. So if you want to just like hang out on social media with me, I am on LinkedIn, Gail Kraft, GailKraft. And I am also on Facebook, Gail Kraft 77. But if you go to friend me and I don't know you, I will not accept you. So do give me a message that says this is where you saw me. Then I will bring you in. I don't just bring strangers in anymore so that I can be marketed to. Number 2, the Empowering Process podcast. The Empowering Process podcast. It's out there. It's, definitely a YouTube channel. It's on iTunes. It's on Spotify. It's on all of the channels. Go out to your favorite channel, listen, especially the one I did with Laurie-Ann, and like it, subscribe to it. Let me know what you think about it.
Yes. And all of those links will be down in the show notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to the audio podcast. So until next week, be in demand. Thanks for hanging out with me. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And join me over in my private Facebook group for more tips, community, and free trainings. You'll find the link in the show notes. You can also help this podcast reach more listeners by leaving a review. And as a thank you, each month I pick one of my reviewers to win a free coaching call with me. So if you haven't done so already, please leave a review and you could be the next winner.